Hello, and thank you for clicking on the video, and I hope that you stay with me through this entire talk that I'm about to do. It's not going to last too long, but I did want to just say a little bit about the great American eclipse that we are having. And being on the eve of it, I thought it would be appropriate to put something out and just share a little bit my thoughts of what I see happening. And as many of you know, I'm an astrologer. And I've been seeing so many things being put out there by fellow astrologers and reading different stuff, and it's all been amazing and wonderful. And I decided that I was going to do this a little differently for myself. Part of how I work with astrology is not necessarily through the interpretive part of astrology, but I tend to tap into more of my intuition and the symbolic archetypes that I see in astrology and how they show themselves to me. And you know, for each of us, how we see things in life, it's all very different. And so for me, when I read a chart, or I look at you know, just some of the cycles that are happening, it's not just what I know from studying astrology, but it's what I feel based on what's coming through me. And that doesn't necessarily always align with what I read, but it's what I feel. And what I have come to discover about myself is through the course of just my life is that the things that come through to me are usually things that are in alignment with either what's happening for myself or what's happening collectively. And so in this little brief video that I'm going to do, it's something that came to me this morning. Actually, it ignited in me yesterday with a little talk that I was doing with a group of women. And one of the women mentioned the title of what we've been hearing is The Path of Totality. And in that moment when she said that, something struck inside of me. And so this morning when I was sitting and journaling, I decided to write about the path of totality and what would come through for me and what that meant, because I know when I hear something and it strikes me, it's like an opportunity for me to listen, because there's something more that's going to be said. So that's what I'm going to bring up today, and I'm going to bring a little bit of the astrology piece into it too, just to kind of give you some more definition and identification about the eclipse. And the other thing is that I'm not here to try to teach you something about what this is, but rather to give some archetypes and some symbolization of what the sun represents and the moon represents, and then you take that information and you do with it, you know, do with it what you want, okay? And then, just like for me, when something strikes you, then that's what you pay attention to, and it doesn't have to. What strikes you can just be a word, and then you take that word. This is what happens for me. I'll take that word. So you take that word, and you begin to just allow that to echo inside of you, and allow whatever that word needs to unfold and message to you for that to happen. So that's kind of how I want to invite you to be with what I'm about to say, because that's how what I'm about to say came through to me. So the first thing is just, again, I want to focus on the statement, the path of totality. That's a huge statement. The path of totality. Totality meaning the all, everything, the sum of everything. And one of the things that I always like to do is I like to look in the dictionary to see what the definition is of particular words. That helps me also to unfold and even just get a more crisper perspective of what it is that I need to pay attention to. So in the literal definition of the path of totality, it is, you know, it is the path in which the eclipse is going to be moving across the United States. And so it's running from one side across to completely to the other. And you know, as we all know, this is something that hasn't happened in, you know, an extremely long time. So this is obviously a big deal. It's a big deal scientifically. It's a big deal energetically. It's an energy that's going to affect us not just by what we see, but what we feel. It's already been happening, and it's going to continue to happen over the course of, you know, months for us. And you know, things don't happen just coincidentally. I mean, this is all divine timing here, that this eclipse is here. at this time in our lives right now, not only for us individually, but for us collectively, and collectively meaning the larger scale of life, and also even just America itself. And it's only happening here in America. And as we all know, we have a lot of challenging situations and times that are occurring right now, and our history is being rattled, meaning that it's like it's coming up from what we thought, not all of us, but some of us thought that wasn't such a big threat to us. We're seeing that there are some pretty big threats that are still out there and that continue to build. So a lot is happening, obviously, and a lot is being unearthed right now. And so if we take a look at what the eclipse is, so here we have Earth, we have the moon, and we have the sun, and so those three are going to align, and the moon is going to cover the sun, and therefore is going to create this darkness. And so again, I'm going to do this symbolically and metaphorically, what that means. So if we look at what an eclipse actually means, an eclipse is a loss of power. It's a loss of significant power and prominence, depriving self and others of your brilliance. So let me repeat that. An eclipse is a loss of significant power or prominence, depriving self and others of your brilliance. It is a failure to appear. Okay, and we know that eclipse also has a scientific meaning, obviously, because that's what it's being called, the eclipse, but it also has a meaning that's even personal. What does it mean to eclipse yourself, or feel that we have been eclipsed by something in our lives, or even like I said, even ourselves? So just want to put that meaning out there for you to just pay attention to that and allow that to see what that feels like for you, and if you can relate to that all. A loss of significant power, failure to appear. And also the other piece of this, of the eclipse, and what it brings forth, is it brings forth darkness. And darkness symbolizes what is not seen. And also what is not seen is what we also call our shadow. And our shadow are those places inside of us that we either keep hidden or that we don't even know that are even there. And a lot of times we keep it hidden because we ourselves are even afraid of looking at that shadow, for fear of what it is it's going to look like, and for fear of what it is that we can't control. And then if we take, go to the sun, what does the sun represent? In astrology, the sun represents the star. It's the star of the chart. It's the hero of the chart. It's where you're meant to shine. Okay? And the moon is, and the other thing about the sun is the sun represents our father. And that's a really important thing, because it represents our masculine energy. And that masculine energy is that energy that gives us that drive and that presence to say, here I am. That's what masculine energy is. That's what the sun energy is in the chart. Okay, so here we have the sun that's part of the player in this trilogy, and then the other piece is the moon. And then the moon in astrology is represented by the feminine, which is represented by the mother, and that is our emotional world. That is the unconscious. That is also even our shadow. That is the moon is that energy that when we feel triggered or we feel threatened, or our sense of security in some way is being rattled, it is our moon sign. It is our moon energy that we are in. We're no longer in our sun. We're not in that kind of confident place of, certainty of knowing who we are, what we're doing. The moon goes, oh boy, the child is animated, the victim is animated, and I'm having a moment. So that's the moon. And then Earth. Earth is the path. Earth is the journey. Earth is where all of us are right now in the journey of life. So it is the path walker, Earth is. And so you put all three of those together and they create a pretty dynamic conversation of, here we are on this earth. We have the sun out there that shines bright and lights up the world. And then we have the moon that's going to come and cover the sun. And so what that represents, what that defines as an astrologer, when we look at that, when I look at that, it's like it is how do we eclipse our sun? How do we eclipse our how we're meant to shine? How is it that, you know, here we are to be a star, and because of these unexamined places within ourselves, comes and eclipse that sun, comes and eclipse that potential. And so with this eclipse happening, it's activating all of that inside of us. It's activating all of that individually, and it's activating that collectively. So I wrote an article earlier, and I wrote it on, of course, the eclipse, and it's a very short article, so if you have an opportunity, I'm going to post it on Facebook so you'll be able to see it, but I know some people will be just getting it out. We'll get it in their email because I sent it out. And one of the things I mentioned in that article is how we, as individuals, that it is our time to step up and shine. It is our time to step up and be a star. And the call for that is really big and really important for us right now. And it's important for us right now because we are at a turning point in our life and in our lives. And whether you can feel that or not, which I think most of us are or can, it's happening. So take a look at that article and read it. It's a short one, but I think it's pretty powerful. Okay, I lost my train of thought. Sorry about that. So the other piece that I want to bring in is I looked up the definition for the word total. I mean, we all know what that means, right? But again, I just love seeing what the definitions are for words. And so what I found is the overall cost. So think about that, the overall cost. The extent or degree of which something, the sum of everything. And I don't even have to go into explaining that because we all, I think, can take that piece right there and apply it to ourselves and apply it to the collective. Like if life continues the way it is, what is the overall cost to that? What is the overall cost to us? And what is the overall cost to our country? And what is the overall cost to humanity? So this is a call. This is a really desperate call for us right now. And I don't want to make it seem like it's doom and gloom, because it's not. It has the potential for so much power, so much healing, so much forgiving, so much transformation, so much growth. And I say that for us as a whole and as individuals. And I feel really compassionate about this. And part of my compassion comes from my just recent experience. And some of you who know me personally know that I just have gone through a very challenging time in my life with the loss of my father. And the reason why I'm bringing this in, because it's really important here. This is why it's important. Because I said earlier, Father represents our Son. And archetypically, Father is godlike to us. As a child, Father is godlike. And so when that son dies, when that archetypal son dies that is represented in our family as Father for a child, it is, while it is very painful, it's also very transformative. It's also an opportunity for one to step into that archetypal, godlike, star, shine energy. So the fact that we're having this eclipse, the fact that all these things are happening, and I know each of you can probably share a story personally that they have been affected by what is going on. This is something to pay attention to. And again, going back to that piece of the path of totality, if you put this in a metaphoric story here, What is the path of your totality? I wrote a statement down, and it's, the more I move toward what feels like my full game, which is totality, the more I stay in my path of totality. So I'm going to repeat that. The more I move toward what feels like my full game, the more I stay in my path of totality. And I think what's really amazing, just came to me right now, is that we have hundreds and thousands of people right now lining up on that path of totality. And all of that energy being brought to one place energetically is huge. And there's many of us, like myself, that will be out there tomorrow with my grandsons watching that eclipse. So what I invite you to do is to watch that not only with your eyes, but to also watch that with your heart. Feel that with your heart. Look beyond what your literal eye sees and go into what the metaphoric vision is of what you're looking at. Because you're not just looking at a scientific phenomenon that's happening tomorrow. That is not what you're just looking at. If you are looking just at that, then you're missing out. And I want to say, even after this is over, you don't want to go to sleep. You don't want to go to sleep. And I don't mean that literal sleep. I mean that consciousness sleep. It's like we want to stay awake. We want to stay engaged. We want to pay attention. We want to pay attention to ourselves. We want to pay attention to others. We want to pay attention to life itself. So with that, I hope what I said all came together somewhat for you somehow. It's like I have all these thoughts in my head and all these feelings in my body, and I try to get them out on video, and it's sometimes a challenge for me. But I'm willing to give it my best shot and hopefully allow what I'm feeling inside and what's coming through to me inside is able to be articulated in a way that you can put it together and take some pieces of what I just said. Because I think what I'm saying is very powerful, and not because it's coming from my voice or my body, but it's because it's just coming from, spirit. It's coming from a place of power and love and heart. So with that, again, I hope you got something out of what I just said, because I know I'm getting something out of this whole experience that I'm having, doing the video, writing an article, and just talking about it with people. It's pretty amazing, pretty powerful. So no matter where you're at, just feel it. Just feel what's happening. Open your heart. And just say, even if you don't even know what you need to say, or what this is even about, or what I just said, or any of the symbolic things of what this is, just say, I'm open to whatever this brings. I'm open to whatever this is supposed to mean, because I know it's powerful. And even though it may not feel good at times, I know it's powerful and it's purposeful. And it is those things that give us the greatest pain that is our greatest growth. All right, namaste.